we get into things, I was originally going to make this video about how Season 1 of She-Ra is just as much Catra's coming-of-age arc as it was Adora's, but how Catra used her newfound powers of self-actualization to be evil instead of good like Adora. A huge chunk of it revolved around episode 11, Promise, where Catra and Adora try to reconcile their past in the Crystal Castle. There was a couple pivotal moments that I feel could be explored in more depth because they demonstrate bits and pieces about why Catra is the way she is, with lots of subtext and implications. But that would make this video much more of a line-by-line breakdown of stuff that happens in the show, which I could do that, but I don't think it would be nearly as fun. So instead, I want to tell you today why I love this abusive, manipulative, violent war criminal kitty. I'm curious if anyone else would be on board with the things I say, because it's about to get spicy. Not as spicy as the Shadow Weaver video that's coming out soon, but anyway, one of the biggest things I've seen audience members and TikTokers hold against Catra is, why the hell didn't she run away with Adora in episode 2? Catra has no career prospects because Shadow Weaver wants to maintain Catra's punching bag status. Plus, Adora clearly states that the Horde is evil and how Catra is helping make sure innocent people die. Obviously, it should be a no-brainer. Of course Catra should go with Adora if she doesn't want to commit heinous acts. Clearly, Catra is in the wrong here, right? Absolutely not. In fact, I thought Adora was the weird one in this scenario. It was heroic and cool, but it felt super idealistic and not grounded in reality, which highlights the systems that keep abuse victims trapped in a bad environment. Oh shit, that's the kind of video this one's gonna be. So before I continue, I want to give you a trigger warning, just in case, because we will be discussing abuse, but like, we're talking about Catra and Shadow Weaver, so maybe it goes without saying, but I just want you to know I'll be discussing a little bit of domestic violence, sexual assault, coercion, PTSD, a lot of not so good things, but I feel they are relevant to discussing Catra and the people who look at Catra and find her experiences relatable. Now, I wanted to make a video about Catra's relatability factor for years now, but I was worried about the stigma that opening that door could bring, or how it could be negatively twisted. I know it's weird to say, but like, now I have a video about how Kuvira is an amazing fascist, but I've also made fun of the orchard and getting yelled at by Keemstars. So I think discussing why Catra is my favorite fictional character is probably the least messy thing in Jackie lore. Well, maybe not the least, but definitely not the worst. And this gives me the confidence to speak about this. So here we go. When somebody is raised in an abusive environment, they don't have context for what an ideal situation should be. Despite worrying about assault from family members or friends, if you know you're going to be hit the moment you step inside your own house, you can at least brace for impact, whereas if you step into a stranger's house, you have no idea what to expect. If you ever fantasized about running away, or you have run away, maybe this is a fear you held back, or maybe you just grit your teeth and ran out, prepared to deal with whatever happened, or maybe you had a plan. Those of you who would run into such a scenario, especially if you have been kicked out before. If you've had an abusive employer, you probably know how much of a pain it is to go out and get a new job, get accepted, pass the interview process before being able to leave your current employment. In some cases, you leave one abusive environment for another one. There is no way to expect that somebody will or won't be a good person to you, especially when you do not have the experiences necessary to figure out if an environment is safe or not. Or you get worried that a situation is too good to be true, and then you self-sabotage. In regards to Catra, despite understanding that what Shadow Weaver and others do to her is really bad, she's still been hearing her whole life about how terrible the princesses are and how unruly Etheria is. Catra, at the very least, has an expectations of how bad things are at the Horde and has learned to deal with Shadow Weaver's abuse. Catra also knows that if she leaves, finds out the world outside the Fright Zone is actually worse than just dealing with Shadow Weaver, then returns to the Fright Zone, she will be in for an experience far worse than any she's had before. The fear of the world being awful, in addition to how much worse home life will go if she bails, they are holding Catra back. It's not a matter of, is Catra a good person who will fight to save lives and run away from the Horde? That's too, like, expecting things that will work out. Things don't always work out the way we want them to. In fact, they rarely do. And sometimes when things do work out, it's not even in a way that we thought they would. So it's a matter of the fear if things don't work out. Catra's refusal to join Adora is in part self-preservation of this. In addition, Catra, just like everybody else, wants to feel loved. I might be dissing aromantics here, but let me explain. Throughout Catra's life, she's been watching Shadow Weaver shower Adora with admiration and affection, receiving none of it in turn, in fact, getting the opposite. In the Horde, power matters. Status matters. This is one of the reasons why Catra wants Hordak and Shadow Weaver's approval. She wants to feel valued by them. Growing up, Adora was the only person who liked Catra, so all of Catra's self-worth stemmed from Adora being nice and loving her. At the beginning of the show, Adora leaves, forcing Catra to deal with all these bad feelings that, Adora was alleviating. Catra deals with those feelings of inadequacy by trying to become the next Shadow Weaver. She wants to obtain a high rank in the Horde so she feels valued by her compatriots. We see a little bit of this in Season 1, Episode 4, where Catra shows off that she received the Force Captain promotion. Catra doesn't feel 100% great about this development because her mother still refuses to acknowledge this as an achievement. Catra won't feel like a Force Captain until Shadow Weaver says she is worthy.
Catra has been nothing but a disappointment to me.
I know Catra makes a lot of snide remarks about Shadow Weavers, but she still wants to become a success and make her mom happy. She just has a bad way of going about it. Catra is trying to fulfill every single expectation Shadow Weaver had for Adora. In fact, Catra does everything Shadow Weaver wanted from Adora, but Shadow Weaver refuses to acknowledge Catra has not even equal worth to Adora, despite surpassing all the expectations. And this pisses Catra off because, theoretically, Shadow Weaver should be impressed at this point as she has surpassed all the expectations.
I got us closer to conquering Bright Moon than anyone ever has. Not to mention, the Whispering Woods is still in ruins. Hordak values me. I've been busy helping the Horde get closer than it's ever been to defeating the rebellion. Any minute now, Hordak's going to open a portal, and I'll be the reason the Horde defeats the princesses.
If you're doing so well, why are you here?
Shadow Weaver picks up on this unspoken craving for love and uses it to manipulate Catra into unknowingly freeing her from prison in Season 2. This gives Catra severe psychological issues because she just doesn't understand why she can't get Shadow Weaver to love her the way she loves Adora. She doesn't know what's wrong with her and it eats her up inside.
Do you know what happened to me after you escaped? Do you even care? You couldn't wait to get away from here. From me.
There's still more reasons why Catra didn't go with Adora. Catra just wanted to stay with Shadow Weaver and Adora and be one big happy family. That's her dream, as shown in Season 3, Episode 5. In addition to fear of the unknown of going with Adora, fear of punishment if he gets brought back by the Horde or fails to escape, but also the intense fear of rejection by the people of Bright Moon. Catra was raised by the Horde, the sworn enemies of basically every other kingdom. The Horde and their soldiers are known for numerous atrocities over the previous 30 or 40 years that the Horde has been on Etheria. Even though Catra in Season 2 has basically done fuck all to hurt anybody, she would still be looked at by society as a killer and probably become a social outcast. In addition, Catra was raised to be a warrior. She doesn't have a skill set to live peacefully on a farm somewhere in Plumeria, nor does she have the social disposition to play nice with others. There's not really any room for a person like Catra aside from a life of crime, which she'll likely endure the same amount of violence amongst criminals and whatnot as she would at the Horde, so why even leave? If Catra went with Adora, realistically, she would become a soldier for Bright Moon, which puts her at a higher risk of getting captured by the Horde, and that brings us back full circle to the fear of punishment for betraying. Catra doesn't have the luxury to think about how her actions will hurt others when she'd be putting her own neck on the line. Her own existence for a world that wants her so gone that not even the Horde cares about her. It's in the best interest of the world for Catra to leave the Horde, but not her own. Adora accepted all these risks, but from Catra's perspective, Adora's just brain damage and thinking irrationally. Plus, Adora is She-Ra, so the likelihood of her being caught is way less likely than that of Catra.
You've known these people for what, a couple of hours? And now you're gonna throw everything away for them?
Catra doesn't understand that Adora is joining the Alliance on a principled standpoint. She just interprets it as okay, Adora doesn't value me or our friendship. In addition to, I was so replaceable that she found 2 people to replace me with in a single day. So why should I accept an invitation from somebody who clearly doesn't give a shit about me?
This is what you left me for? Dress-up games and a light show? And your new best friends are nowhere to be seen.
I think it's pretty clear that Catra just doesn't understand the morality aspect what Adora is doing, and unable to talk it over with her. She just has to try to figure it out for herself. The conclusion in that, it's all personal. Friendship and whatnot. This makes Catra's insecurities even worse.
What did I do? She left us. She left me.
This is also likely why Catra couldn't accept Scorpia's friendship at first. She probably didn't think it would even count. This ties in episode 11 where Catra and Adora finally get a clean swath of time to try and talk things out, and Catra is told verbatim the truth about why Adora left.
The Horde is evil. I had no choice. I couldn't go back.
Catra goes quiet in thought here while Adora waits for a response. I believe that Adora is hoping Catra will say something along the lines of, yeah, the Horde is awful, I should stick with you. But instead, Catra says nothing. I find this moment to be incredibly interesting because we can kind of insert whatever thoughts we want into Catra's head to, kind of figure out what the silence means, it's like the start of a crossword puzzle. Using Catra's childhood as hints, I believe that, since Catra has a pretty underdeveloped sense of morality, given how she was raised by Shadow Weaver, that when Catra hears Adora call the Horde evil, Catra is trying to figure out what that really means, and if it's good or bad, and what does that say about herself? Catra is finally considering Adora's words and pondering Adora's offer to come with her from all the way back in season 2, and weighing all the options and the repercussions that I mentioned earlier, and trying to envision what a life would be like if she wasn't with the Horde. But she doesn't have the knowledge necessary to fully comprehend or understand, and there's all that fear holding her back. I know this requires the pretense of Catra doesn't really understand right from wrong, so if you want more info about that, you check out my Scorpia video where I discuss Catra's relationship to Scorpia. But back to this moment. Adora interrupts Catra's thoughts, and the two get sucked back into the castle's illusions. This leads to the two getting separated, which leads to Catra almost getting eaten by a spider, which leads to Adora stealing the kill, which leads to Catra starting a fight about not needing Adora to protect her because she can protect herself just fine. The issue with this is Adora didn't realize how much Catra has grown without her, and then sarcastically belittles her. In a friendly, mocking way, yeah, but since Catra is struggling with these feelings of inadequacy, especially in regards to Adora, this really pushes Catra's buttons. So it starts a big fight.
Why do you think I gave the sword back to you in the fright zone? I didn't want you to come back, Adora!
I can go more into depth about this in my Adora video, but in a really brief summary, Adora derives her self-worth from her ability to save people and help her friends, which is why she gets super depressed in season 5 when she loses her She-Ra powers and can't do that stuff so good anymore. Catra unintentionally shoves this in Adora's face. Catra is suffering a lot, and there is nothing Adora can do about this, and that makes Adora feel weak.
What good am I if I can't even heal one princess?
The flowchart of events that impacted Catra's life made her into an irredeemable monster, but most of those events were just bad luck. The biggest issue holding Catra back is the fact that she feels like she is the problem. What I mean by that is Catra thinks she can fix her inadequacy issues by working her way up the chain of command, appealing to authority and crushing anybody who says otherwise. The solution to feeling good about oneself isn't by fame or riches or beating up on others. This is why so many millionaires like to talk about how all the money in the world can't buy happiness. I know that sentiment is generally used as an anti-work statement to prevent people from chasing their dreams, but I think it's applicable to Catra since she believes conquering the planet and becoming Hordak 2.0 will win her mother's affection, and then she'll finally be happy. And then we find out in season 5, all Catra needs to be happy is just a proper emotional support structure to help her when she needs it, clear and healthy boundaries between herself and friends, and, to be showered with the affection that she couldn't get from Shadow Weaver. Also, the whole getting the Kiss the Galaxy's strongest lesbian, but that kind of goes without saying, right? I used to hate season 5. It made no sense to me. But now that I'm in a much healthier environment, I rewatch season 5 and I see how it handled changing all of the environmental factors to help Catra and fulfill that arc of escaping the cycle of abuse. When Catra was rescued from Prime, I really liked how Catra still considered herself the villain and just wanted to be dumped out into space. She already came to terms with her villainy and the crimes she committed and didn't feel redeemable. And Adora yelling at Catra to pull her away from that turmoil, that was a beautiful moment that really rocked Catra's perspective. Catra's story arc showcases what the cycle of abuse looks like from an outside perspective. So it's no wonder why some people don't understand why Catra is so important to so many people. Leaving a toxic environment is incredibly difficult and scary, and sometimes with fear and threats of physical violence, psychological abuse, and sometimes financially impossible. Scorpia knew this, and that is why Scorpia went to the Princess Alliance for help, because she knew all by herself could not help Catra. Adora never gave up on Catra, even when she wanted to die. This video isn't meant to excuse Catra's evil acts, but to say what happened to Catra is relatable, and maybe people do like her because angsty tsundere cat girl, but it's a deep emotional level for a lot of people. Every time I learn something or break past some emotional barrier, and I rewatch She-Ra and I can just see parallels to my own experiences, especially through Catra's eyes. And I really like to be able to use this as a tool to explain these different perspectives. Anyway, subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, look forward to more She-Ra videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.